public servants of Clemson, please help us to promote fair conversations and listen intently to all viewpoints and to guide us to wise decisions. Assist us in gathering objective information and learn from the past as we plan for the future. Show us ways in which we can chart a course for Clemson that encourages all, as a community and individually, to thrive. We are grateful for all that you've given us. Cherish this moment where we can nurture the present and future of Clemson. In your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Hadley. I now have a couple of proclamations I'm going to read. The first one will be on National Safe Boating Week. I think we have some people here. Come on forward. Whereas boating continues to be a popular recreation activity for nearly 100 million Americans, and whereas on average 650 people die each year in boating-related accidents in the United States, and approximately 3/4 of these are fatalities caused by drowning, and whereas approximately 70% of these accidents are caused by human error or poor judgment, and not by the boat, equipment, or environmental factors, and whereas a significant number of boaters who lose their lives by drowning each year would be alive today had they worn their life jackets, and whereas today's life jackets are more comfortable, more attractive, and more wearable than styles of years past, and whereas through basic boating safety procedures, such as carrying life-saving emergency distress and communications equipment, wearing life jackets, attending safe boating courses, participating in free boat safety checks, and staying sober when navigating, we can help ensure boaters on America's coastal, inland, and offshore waters to stay safe throughout the season. And whereas National Safe Boating Week is observed to bring the attention of important life-saving tips for recreational boaters so they can have a safer, more fun experience out on the water throughout the year. Now therefore I, J.C. Cook III, Mayor of the City of Clemson, South Carolina, do hereby support the goals of the Safe Boating Campaign and proclaim May 18th through 24th, 2019 as National Safe Boating Week in Clemson and the start of the year-round effort to promote safe boating. Furthermore, I urge all of those who participate who boat to practice safe boating habits and to wear life jackets at all times while boating. In witness hereof, I hereunto set the hand and cause the official seal of the City of Clemson to be affixed the 6th day of May, 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. On behalf of the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary, we appreciate your continued support for National Safe Boating Week and safe boating. And if the press is here, this might be worthy of mention.
Thank you. And thank you for what you do.
Thank you, sir. Council.
Our second proclamation is the 50th anniversary of Municipal Clerks Week, which is May the 5th through the 11th of 2019. Whereas the office of the municipal clerk, Beverly, you want to come forward? Since you do such a fine job for us as our municipal clerks. Whereas the office of the municipal clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world, and whereas the office of the municipal clerk is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the office of the municipal clerk provides a professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels, and whereas municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all, Whereas the municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community. Whereas municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. Whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the municipal clerk, now therefore I, J.C. Cook III, Mayor of the City of Clemson, S.C., do recognize the week of May 5th through May 11th, 2019 as Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to our municipal clerk, Beverly Coleman, and to all municipal clerks for their vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent.
Thank you.
We will now move into the public session of our meeting, and for that portion of the meeting, I'll turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem John Douglas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For up to the next 30 minutes, we'll receive public comment on items that are on the agenda or not on the agenda. Just ask that you come forward, give us your name, address. Please try to limit your comments to about 3 minutes so we can hear as many folks as possible. And also, because you are on the new live Clemson streaming council TV meetings, wait till you get up and start speaking to the microphone so the folks at home can hear you also. And when you finish, if you'll sign your name and address beside Beverly, appreciate it. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jack Littlejohn. I live at 103 Hillcrest Avenue, and I own half of Todaro Pizza at 105 Sloan Street. I'm speaking tonight because I'm looking forward to hearing the presentation from Pavilion Development about the possibility of the public-private parking solution at their development. Ever since the city began studying the downtown corridor and the possibility of adjusting traffic flows and parking configurations, I've spoken several times about the possibility that a large parking solution in the area of Hillcrest Avenue and North Clemson Avenue could have negative impacts, lighting pollution, noise pollution, increased traffic on Hillcrest Avenue and North Clemson, and just the general possibility of general commercialization in that direction. I'm excited about the possibilities of this presentation, and I ask the council to give it serious consideration as part of a solution to give the city financial and general flexibility to move forward with the downtown corridor and hopefully eliminate or at least minimize the negative impacts of any additional parking solutions that might take place further up College Avenue towards Highway 93. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else care to speak?
Hello, my name is Lindsay Grooms, and I am speaking on behalf of the Arts Center of Clemson. Thank you for the opportunity to have me speak, Mr. Mayor and Council. As an instructor at the Arts Center, I urge you to support the construction of a new facility in Clemson. Such a space is absolutely necessary to meet the needs of our growing arts community in Clemson, as well as the needs of our future residents. The Arts Center offers classes for all ages. Not only does it benefit the residents of Clemson, Central, Seneca, and surrounding areas, but we attract university students as well. Collegiate students who enjoy art but don't have the time to fit it into their school curriculum can come and sign up for a class that they'd like to take. And more often they take more classes, so we drive more people in. Also, with our programs being cut from public schools, we are able to offer classes and events to these kids and adolescents who are looking for an outlet to create the ideas that dwell in their imagination. We are growing and becoming more popular each day. With our population, we need a facility that can provide our ever-growing programs. We have such great dedication. We have a staff, we have a great group of volunteers and patrons who care deeply for this for the facility that can hopefully be built for us. We need this, and we owe it to the people and everyone who comes and creates. Thank you for listening to my words.
Thank you. Sign in. Anybody else care to speak? Seeing no one else,
actually,
we'll
yes,
call
I
this
did.
public session closed and
Thank
turn the
you.
meeting back over to the mayor.
Thank you, Mrs. Duckworth. You have in your packets the minutes from the April 15, 2019 meeting. I'll now entertain a motion on their behalf.
Make a motion to say the minutes from April 15th be approved as submitted. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Very much. Moving to the report discussion agenda, item A from Stephanie Jackson from the South Carolina Department of Transportation to provide a report and update on the Highway 123 safety enhancements and summer paving schedule. Stephanie.
Okay.
I want to first thank Stephanie for being here. Members of council who were here only since January don't know the wrath and fury that Stephanie has been through about a year ago when they posited the idea of putting concrete medians down 123. It was not met with much kind words, and matter of fact, we actually had some hostility. They've been patient, and they have listened to our engineering staff and to our business community, and I think they have come up with a good compromise that will get us through some future years. That being said, I will throw out the cautionary word that it won't be long before we need to consider building that rear access drive for exiting off of our restaurant row on 123. So just because this is not being forced to happen now because of concrete medians, please keep that in mind for future years because the traffic on 123 is not going to diminish. The population continues to grow in Seneca and along the lakes, and there needs to be additional support to what they're doing here. So I wanted to offer my public thanks to Stephanie and for Mike Holden and for the rest of the crew that have endured several meetings and listened. So thank you.
Yeah, thank y'all. Thank y'all for having me tonight. I guess, hi everybody, thank y'all for coming. I wish I had brought my glasses because I can't, because that's kind of a little bit hard to see.
You want to use mine?
No, I'm good. I know what we're doing. We've talked about it for about 7 or 8 months now, so, but thank you though. So we met several months ago. We had started out, we were resurfacing 123, and we're going from the bridge up to the intersection in which the railroad bridge was just built, and the 2 lanes coming off of 133 was built, and there's a little section there we just paved a few years ago. So we're going to come up to that joint, we're going to jump to the other side of the intersection and go on up to the joint just past 76. So we're kind of filling in those areas and doing resurfacing. Right now, the contractor has that work scheduled to be done in July while school is out. And while that work is going on, we have been working with the city of Clemson and with our engineers and our traffic engineers in Columbia and the staff here at the city, trying to come up with some ideas that would help your traffic situation on 123. There's a lot of accidents out here. With people, all the driveways that are coming in and people coming left and turning left into the driveways and turning left outside of the driveways. One of the issues that, we met about 2 months ago to kind of, get this thing nailed down because the construction project is coming and we really don't want to waste that because if we lose this opportunity to do some work out here, we have it funded right now. It's in the construction project that we can do this work while it's being resurfaced. At the same time, under the same lane closures, under the same mobilization. So what the plan is, and what was requested of us, is to be able to extend that left turn lane from 123 turning on to 133. So that gets very backed up in the afternoons. People use the median to kind of as a third lane there to drive up into the lane. So when we sat down, in order to keep people from driving up the median lane and causing issues and accidents and things like that, the orange that you see is a concrete island. It would extend from the intersection. There's already a small section of, I don't know where the pointer is, but there's already a small section in front of the Verizon that was put in during their permit process when the Verizon went in. And we plan to extend that down to give you a lot more storage in that left lane. You're gonna be able to get cars over into it, and the median and the orange that you see on the left-hand side is a full width of that median of concrete that would prevent cars from coming up the median and trying to work their way in there. So that is part of the plan. The other part is, I believe there's a left turn lane that's going into Kiwi Trail, and we're going to restripe this after the resurfacing is done as a twiddle, which is I don't really know what twiddle means, but it's a median where you can kind of get and you can turn left, right. It's a safe place. So for cars. So instead of having that turn lane, we're going to restripe that and make it a full median. And the proposal is also to make Kiwi Trail a right-in, right-out only. There's not a lot of lefts. I think we counted about 17 or something in our counts lefts into Kiwi Trail. And it's very difficult, especially during rush hour and things like that, to make a left out of Kiwi Trail. We've looked at it. We were hoping to be able to put a concrete island in there. Kiwi Trail is a city-maintained road. So there's not enough room to actually do the pork chop type concrete island, so we would have to do that with paint and signage. Okay? And I think that was about it on the changes. Does anybody have any questions? We've determined that this is, it's not going to fix everything, but it's definitely a big step in the right direction, and it's going to improve safety.
Stephanie, you mentioned a lot of wrecks. First of all, thank you. You said a lot of wrecks. What's a lot of wrecks?
Oh, well, you remember that number, Rick? I think there was about 161 in 3 years, something like that.
They said that had this turn lane been extended just that little bit extra, that would have prevented 37 wrecks in the last 2 years.
That's just that section that our traffic engineers looked at the data. The whole between the two signals, there's about 161 accidents, 160-ish accidents in about 3 years.
It was basically 8 times the number of wrecks that there are on similar roads across the state.
Yes, sir.
And the only thing that's kind of a little different there is when the new pavement comes down, the new concrete median comes down, that forces Wall Street into a right-in, right-out only as well.
Sorry, I forgot to mention that.
Well, Stephanie, could I ask you a question, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Talk about trying to move that traffic a little bit easier, a little quicker through that intersection. I feel like I am a real expert coming through that intersection. I'm coming from Ace Hardware, and I get into the left-hand lane and make a left-hand turn lane onto College Avenue. And I probably do it 2 or 3 times a day. I'm out and about in the community that often. What I find is that only 6 cars are allowed to take a left off of 123 onto College Avenue, and another 3 or 4 run through it, either with a yellow or a red light. And it's becoming much more prominent in this particular action. May I ask that you all look at lengthening the time that the left-hand turns from those 2 lanes, one from 123 turning onto 133, as you have projected here, but also from 123 onto College Avenue to allow more cars to pull onto that lane. And I've looked at everything like Starbucks, and is there a backup there, and is there a reason for not allowing 10 to 12 cars to make a left-hand turn legally, as opposed to 6? And I just don't see it. I just see that left-hand turn signal is just not staying on long enough to allow better flow of traffic. Just throwing that out.
Yes, ma'am. And I am not a I'm a civil engineer, and I'm not a traffic engineer. You know, as you do give left turn signal more green time, that would take away from your 123 green time. But as we talked in our last meeting, and that was something I did not mention, is we are looking at and planning on putting an intelligent system through this corridor. And we know that traffic patterns here change quite regularly with schools in and when school's not in, and during holidays and summers and football games and all of the functions that you have. But it's probably one of the best things we can do. I mean, as far as manually going in there and trying to tweak those times and to change those timings, we can look at that, and that's probably something, you know, we should do since the project is over now and those 2 turn lanes have been in on 133 for some time. But, you know, we do have an intelligent system coming. And not only would that look at the signals on 123 through that little corridor, it would also look at the signals going up 133 with the signal that's up from Elm to try to coordinate all of that also. So that is in the works. It's coming. We don't have it, but we are planning on it, and we're working on the design and how that's going to be put into the system.
Stephanie, that also brings up a point. The left from College to Elm, are you looking at that too?
They did look at that.
Going up 133, taking a left to Elm Street, blocks up the traffic right there under the railroad tracks.
We talked about that when we met last week, I guess it was.
That back.
Yes.
Elm is a one-way street when you go underneath the tracks, and so they cannot put a concrete block there to keep you from going left, because the southbound traffic on 133 has to take a left to get onto Elm if you're going to go up toward Calvin Corners. So they suggested that Elm is a city street, and they suggested that the city post that one-way only on Elm exiting. So cars going into that neighborhood would go up to Calhoun and turn on a protected traffic signalized intersection. And we agree with that. And all that will take is, again, signage. And they recommend doing that, again, in coordination with when they make the changes on 123 this summer, so that they're all done together. And our engineering folks concur with that also.
Any other questions for Steph? Again, thank you for being with us, and thank you for sharing with everyone. And I know a lot of the businesses on 123 will be happy to see the results of this. What we're supposed to begin with.
And we are in the process of the ones that are effective, and Andy sent some emails out, and we're in contact with them to make sure everybody knows kind of what's going on.
Right.
Okay? Thank you very much for having me. You're welcome. I don't need to sign.
Next item is to receive a proposal from Pavilion Development Company for a public-private partnership opportunity related to the expansion of public parking for downtown Clemson.
Good evening, Mayor Cook, members of council. My name is Jim Gamble. I'm with Pavilion Development. And tonight we're excited to present a general outline to you about our potential parking deck on the Astro Theater. Some of you should have received documents earlier, and this is a follow-up to that to give you a general diagram of what we're going to do. We've had some conversations with Rick Cotton, and we appreciate the opportunity to speak with Rick throughout this process. And also tonight I want to introduce Rich Davies, and also Michael McDonald, who's also with our firm with Pavilion Development. Rich is the president and CEO. Quick background, as you know, Pavilion is in the process of developing the Shepherd Hotel on College Avenue, and that project is currently under permanent review. As a part of that project, Pavilion purchased the former Astro Theater property to provide the parking for the Shepherd Hotel. We're currently in permanent stages on both of those projects and proceeding with redevelopment of the surface parking in the Astro property for our surface lot, and which would also require some parking stackers to be able to meet the criteria both for the Shepherd Hotel and some other uses that are being contemplated for the redevelopment of the Astro site. With that, through our discussions with some key individuals throughout the city and speaking with Rick, it was determined and it was very evident that this could create a really, really good opportunity as we look at the city's parking needs as well, to go ahead and develop potentially a working agreement with the city to develop a parking deck that can serve everyone's needs and do many, many things for us. So our basic proposal is that Pavilion or its entity will provide at no cost basis to the city the land that the current Astro property and finance and develop a parking structure with a number of to-be-determined parking spaces allocated to the city of Clemson for public parking, while, again, providing parking for the hotel as would be required in some of the other uses. The city would then lease back that number of parking spaces as to time, which will in turn generate revenue for the city and a general revenue stream for the city. I want to reiterate, the city's involvement with this would be on a lease basis only and not required to provide any capital expenditures throughout the process. However, if public funding is available through certain vehicles, such as tax increment financing or cap bus funding or whatever that might be, we'd certainly be open to listing that, and also that would also help reduce the lease basis for the city. I just want to run through a couple of initiatives that we've been talking to some of you with, and with Rick also, with respect to what this initiative can do for the city of Clemson. And this is what we're really excited about, because we really feel that this is a win-win opportunity. In no particular order, but it would solve for existing and future public parking deficits that the city is having to deal with from time to time. And it will also, to one of the gentleman's earlier comments, help create that core parking within the density of the city and keep everything out and help avoid that parking from going outside the general nucleus of the town. It'll create a revenue generator stream for the city. It'll allow a percentage of parking spaces for the Shepherd Hotel, which again, timing is everything. We're scheduled to open that hotel in late 2020. So we've talked about timing several times and how we can make this happen. It would, in our opinion, and in some discussions with other folks, help expedite the implementation of the approved Streetscape master plan for College Avenue. It could serve as a catalyst for future economic development in that core area, the College Avenue corridor, and some of the surrounding areas also, with a smart growth thought with getting some of these vehicles off the streets. It'll provide a site that is currently on the cat bus route. It'll promote public transportation. A couple of things we wanted to share also is just really the geometry of that site just lays out perfectly for a two-bay parking garage. There's some other sites that could have been contemplated, but the geometric efficiencies, both from a design and a construction standpoint, are really just perfect on this site. Also, the topography, it's relatively flat, so there's not a whole lot of earthwork involved with a project like this for this type of deck configuration. I will say at this time that last time we spoke, we do have some architectural elevations and massing studies underway, and unfortunately they just weren't ready for this evening, but we're really excited about sharing those with you at the appropriate time. So again, the construction efficiencies and design is just phenomenal on the site. And as a result of all that, these cost economies will be realized on this property that may not be possible in some other properties that may be contemplated, again, due to the geometry of the site and the cost economies that come with that, the topography, earthwork, structure, and all those other things that go into a parking deck. This also creates a significant opportunity for value with the city by really eliminating the need by the city for any capital expenditure or capital outlay at this time. It's land, it's refinancing and developing the deck, but giving you the opportunity to come back and lease that to solve your need. So it really creates balance sheet capacity that you can utilize in other ways in the city. One conversation was had that there may be other things that capital that the city currently has could be used for in other parts of the city. Well, this creates the opportunity for you to get that parking that you need. It helps everybody, and then you have that ability to finance other things through other capital outlays. And then it also frees up, let's get into the finance part again, but it frees up borrowing capacity for the city for those other initiatives also. Should there not be capital available, there's other borrowing capacity that might not otherwise be met there. I do want to say too, kind of going back to the land basis, we've got some estimates, and you've seen some of it's not our intent tonight to get into a whole lot of negotiation on the numbers and what those mean. Those are placeholders. That's the point of beginning. However, when we look at this site, the economies of being able to develop this site for this parking structure, we look at this versus a couple other sites that may have been contemplated and some others around town. You go from basically a $25,000 a space cost basis to a $35,000 a space cost basis. And so you look at that $10,000 a space delta, it adds up very quickly. And it just timing also. I can't stress that enough. So in closing, again, we're happy to answer any questions we can. We don't have all the answers now. This is where the generation of ideas really begins. But we welcome a response, as we discussed with Rick earlier, to that document we provided. Start getting into some of the numbers and seeing how we can make this work. And we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. So thank you very, very much for this opportunity.
Questions from council?
I have several, but so on the document you provided, it said the net revenue gain is $3,300 a year. Is that total or is that per space?
Well, again, that's based on a formula that has some public financing involved in that. So if you look at those numbers, that's just really our starting point. But that would be the way that math worked. That would be an annual net gain off the spaces. In other words,
Per space, though, or
total.
So the whole project only brings in $3,300 for the city.
Net.
That's the city's total financial obligation would be
You'd be
$382,000 a year
Right.
for a 25-year term.
Right.
You guys started at 382, now they net it out. They included us using hospitality funds, local accommodations tax. That's all city money as well. So you're paying $382,000 a year and using $90,000 in return.
So that $3,300 is not what the net is. That's what this report says. Is that inaccurate?
It's accurate the way they have it figured. It's not inaccurate as actually what comes out of the city coffers.
Right.
For example, they assume that they've talked with Keith Moody about grant dollars. Well, that $500,000 you can toss it away because the grant timing will not be when they need to have a decision on this. So that money is gone. You can't count on it now or even a year from now. Once you make the application, they consider it in a competitive round, and then you may get it awarded, and then you can use it 6 months later. So it won't work for this project. So,
Well, if again, I could reiterate that this is a starting point with some assumptions on some potential public funding. Now, what we have discussed is let's go back and let's have an opportunity to have a counter with the math that may work in a different way. And we're very excited to sit down and do it. We had to have a point of beginning based on some of the assumptions on some potential public financing and how the deal might be structured on a rent rate.
So again, go very slow for you.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
So what's a realistic number then? If it's not $3,300 per year with all that you're factoring in differently, what is a really valid number to make a decision on?
their numbers here on the annual revenue are probably pretty close.
Okay.
$90,000. Okay. Their cost to lease for 25 years is $382,000.
Okay.
So that means you've got to find a revenue source to the tune of $291,000 to fill that gap for 25
Per
years.
year. To give you an idea for the way I kind of back into it, I shared it with these folks, and as well as for that number, the city of Clemson could finance $5.2 million, almost $5.3 million over 20 years and own something at the end of that, as opposed to leasing it for that period of time and then having nothing left at the end of the renegotiation. So that's kind of the approach I took. And I know this is a starting point on that, so I have a long ways to go from that standpoint because it's a bigger number out there than just what the revenue side is. I'm just looking more at what our assets, because our balance sheet does matter on the bar, but also matters for kind of future planning. And I'm a big proponent of the downtown corridor study. Todd Lee included me be on that group. I want a parking deck to happen. I want that. That's something I want to see go. I think that transforms downtown. But to me, this has a little work to do.
Well, and what we asked them for was a starting point.
Right.
So this should be classified as a starting point.
So,
Obviously,
I'm still not sure what the number is, but so you refer to the parking deficit number in the city. What is that parking deficit number?
It's a general term as a part of the master plan.
But is there data to tell us what that deficit number is?
Well, I will say that when we were having these discussions with Mr. Cotton on where we needed to be in terms of the number of spaces that might be suitable for the city, two things came to mind. One is the ability to relocate some of the spaces in the current public parking up on Liberty to this deck. So that was one component. And the other component was just what a good number might be to offset some of the parking that may be lost along College Avenue as part of the Streetscape master plan. So in real round numbers, we ended up between 100 and 120, something like that. So we came up to 117, and that number was really based on a very conceptual layout we've worked on that we shared with you before, and just really count spaces. So that's another variable as to how many spaces that might be, Mr. McGuire, and today, and what it may ultimately end up being. We have not done a traffic study. We have not done any of that yet. We're working on general numbers at this point.
Tom,
I
we
hope
did
that
this
answers your
corridor
question.
study, if I remember correctly, there was 80-something spots total. How many did we lose if we implemented that? Because when I look at it as a net number, if we put 117 in here,
62.
62. So we're net gaining 50-something spots. Once that plan is implemented, so that, as we think through our future part, and I know y'all are going to look at this in terms of expansion for the future as well.
Sure.
That would be a big component.
one of the concepts too was if you could take some of your long-term lease, your monthly lease spaces out of the two decks downtown and move them to 2 blocks away, basically, then free up those spaces for your hourly meter parking. It's kind of turnover more.
So how tall is a 3-story deck? How many feet?
Well, it's really, with what we're contemplating now, it's really 2 levels. You have your surface, and then you have the 1 level and 1 level, and those levels are generally 12 to 13 feet, so we'll say 26 feet.
So what does the parking garage going to look like? Is it going to look like a parking garage or something?
Well, as part of our bid, and this is Mike McDonald, by the way, who's been working on the BAR for the surface parking. But some of the things that we're going to show you in some imagery when we have engaged an architect that is working on that right now. But we're looking at some of that imagery with green wall. That would be screened. We've got some other components that are more natural featured, some wood slat type design that would be associated with that. But we'd really like to be able to show you the imagery before we try to verbally explain that, because it's a little more striking that way.
The sense would be is I'm a new person in Clemson. I'm driving down College Avenue thinking Clemson's a worthless town. I see this building on the right. I'm going to look at it and say, what is that wonderful looking building? Or I'm going to say, oh my God, it's a parking garage.
You're going to say, holy cow, this is the best thing we've ever seen. And here's a great restaurant, here's a potential brewery right with it, and we want to go park right here in the public spaces.
So it may not be interesting, but it will be, that's an interesting looking building as opposed to that's a parking garage.
Yes, sir.
Right, and I will say to that point, when we came in for the BAR for the Astro, we had parking stackers, and we used something similar to what Jim's describing. We had some neighbors come in, and we showed view quarters from the adjacent park, and I think all the neighbors were happy with the way things looked. We haven't prepared anything for this specific garage, but we can definitely get you the information on what the parking stackers look like, which will be similar. This will obviously be a bigger structure. I don't think it's going to be taller. I mean, this is going to be 26 feet.
Right.
And so it's similar to the same height of those parking stackers.
That's great.
Yeah, but another thing I was going to mention, in terms of alternate sites, we've kind of looked around too. I don't know if there are many alternate sites, for a parking deck. The ones that are, they're not quite configured the way ours is. It's very efficient. We kind of put some numbers to paper. With the
if you look at the top line number, the 5.9 million, if you looked at an alternate site, I don't know what the land cost would be. Let's say in the 1.5 range, which is kind of what we're talking about here. And you've got 200,000 for soft cost. Because any other site's probably not going to be as efficient. You're not looking at 24,000 or 25,000 a space. You're probably looking closer to 35 to 40 per space. So your cost is there. If you do the math on that, 120 spaces, you're basically almost at the 5.9 that we're talking about here. Just to kind of give you a frame of reference.
Of course, you own them when you're done. They're yours.
Right.
They're good.
Right. There's a lot of different ways that.
Can we allow one more person? I just wanted to say this, and hello, Mr. Mayor and council members. Thank you for entertaining this idea that we've been discussing on Rich Davies. Councilman Duckworth, I just wanted to maybe present the idea of bifurcating these two issues. So on the one hand, we've got a cost budget initiative, and the other, we've got investment allocation initiative. What we're talking about and have been to this point is really the cost side of things. So perhaps if we look at the lease versus own scenario, there's some flexibility that we've got, and perhaps that's something we can discuss as to what makes sense for the city. What we've proposed really allows, under a lease basis, for the city to reallocate those funds to other investments that might yield more than a yield on a parking deck, for example. So there might be other initiatives that you look to invest in that folks would like to see happen that could provide a better return, let's say, than what we're proposing. So yes, you'd own it at the end, but the good news is that it's been funded on our dime up front, so you get the use of those funds to allocate and reinvest somewhere else, and that, of course, would still inure to your benefit over time.
I don't think we're as Jim said, we're not going to negotiate it out.
No.
I think it's worth talking. Whenever you have someone who's willing to at least look at the concept, because we got a good deal on the 40 spaces in the Earl Street deck, and we'll have those for 50 years, and in 8 years they're paid for, which is even better. So it never hurts to visit with folks and look at ideas, and that's where we're starting. And they've initiated it, and I appreciate their willingness to consider public-private partnership.
I hope something works.
Thank you very much for leading.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Staff report, Rick.
Council's going to be busy for the next 3 weeks. Just want to go over the calendar to make sure we have these dates on the public record for Clerk Coleman. Tuesday, May 7th is your first community meeting, Clemson Elementary. That'll be 6 o'clock. Thursday, May 9th at 6:30, community meeting, Calvin Bridge Center. Monday, May 13th, which is just 1 week from tonight, at 5 o'clock, City Council will have your second regular meeting of May because of the ITGA conference, which is the next week. We will start at 5 o'clock. I promised Todd that we'd be out of here by 5:45 because they have a planning commission meeting in here at 6. We'll adjourn to the conference room for a budget work session number 1. May 14th, next Tuesday, we'll start at 5 o'clock and continue our budget workbook review. Thursday, May 16th at 8:30 a.m., there's a third community meeting at the Holy Trinity Episcopal Church. Saturday,
There's also we also have the cat bus ribbon cutting.
Get to that. Saturday, May 18th is the Pickens County Municipal Association annual picnic. You should have received an email invitation to that. And if you could respond individually, that will help alleviate any confusion. On May 16th at 2 o'clock p.m. is the cat bus ribbon cutting event. And thank you for those folks who helped us package that deal. That'll be a cat bus. Then, for your general information, but you're not required to be there, on May
sorry, did you say me that I missed our last meeting? So we are not, we're
May
not,
13th.
May the 13th?
Right. And then on the
Next week.
20th, obviously, our quorum will be in State College, Pennsylvania.
Oh, I got you. Thank you.
So, anyway.
Thank you.
We are still working with Clemson University on routes and hours of service for next year. Obviously, the gold route has some sub-performing areas on it, and we'll be discontinuing those. We're disappointed, but obviously the ridership is not there, that we can't support it financially with a huge operating subsidy. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll have that done. I also understand that hopefully we should get the final legal analysis from the university's general counsel on the fire contract and have that on your agenda for the first meeting in June. I'm hoping so because it goes into effect July 1, so we're pushing the envelope there. And that's it for my reports. I do have Chief Jimmy Dixon here, and he's going to give you an update on his past research on issues that have been brought forward about the Hells Angels motorcycle rally that's going to be here at the end of July, and what he's found out from other locations who've had this event in their communities in the past few years. Chief, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. First of all, I'm not in the business of selling newspapers, and even worse, not telling the whole story when the paper's written. I know for a fact that interviews were done with law enforcement executives from the locations that the exact same rally being held here was held in the last 3 years. And the way that I know that is because after the interviews, the persons that were interviewed called me and told me they were interviewed. I don't recall seeing any of that in any article, anywhere, other than the Greenville News. It's the only place I saw any subjectivity whatsoever. I can assure you as council and as mayor, it's not doom and gloom as it was presented in the paper a few weeks ago. This group absolutely has no intention of coming into and or burning our city down and leaving. To set the record straight, no one from the Chamber of Tourism or city government, and especially me, invited them to hold their run here. We were informed last year that they would be voting on where to hold their annual USA run. That Clemson was one of 3 locations last year. For whatever reason, they voted to go to the Mountain of the Ozark. Then, as it turns out, this past September, early October, I think it was, I was informed by our Chamber Tourism Director that the Hells Angels had voted to come to Clemson for their 2019 USA run. So that being the case, we have no right, we have no authority to tell them, no, you're not allowed in Clemson. What we do have the right to do is work with them, not against them. Try to make it as safe an event as we can make it. And get them in here and let them go home. Because that's all they want to do. That being the case, planning was started for their arrival just in a few weeks after the notification. For those of you that don't know, the official dates of the ride is July 29th, beginning at noon, through August the 2nd, ending at noon. I've met with the representatives from the Hells Angels chapter that's coordinating the event. I continue to meet with them. I speak with them frequently on a monthly basis. I've also spoken with the law enforcement executives and the planning coordinators from the locations where the exact same event was held for the last 3 years. And I have reviewed in full detail the last 4 reports, after action reports, that were presented to me from the intelligence unit of the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Bureau. This unit follows all of these groups wherever they go. They also serve as a role in assisting local law enforcement agencies with the coordination and planning for the events of this nature. Monthly conference calls are being completed at present, and those monthly calls are occurring, or have been occurring for the past few months, with all federal, state, and local agencies in preparation for completing the operations plan for the week that they're here. We also have training scheduled for late July that is to instruct every personnel from Clemson City PD and every other agency that is going to be here involved with assisting and working during the event on teaching them exactly what to look for and how to work an event of this nature. You know, I guess in one way you could look at it like this. As soon as football season's over, we immediately began planning for the next football season, 12 months out. Doggone it, I really hate it. We haven't had 12 months to plan for this event. We've only had 11. But we have been preparing for it, and we'll be ready for it when it gets here. Before I answer any questions, and I can't get into a whole lot of detail about the plans, there are certain aspects of the plans and the things that we're putting together that is not public information, and they will not be public information. The after-action reports that I have the privilege of reviewing are not public information. They're for law enforcement eyes only. But I can assure you there has been no issues in the last 4 years in any one of those reports that I have read probably 3 times over the last several weeks. In closing, what I'd like to say is I was asked by a reporter when all of this first started, do I expect any issues or catastrophic event as a result of the 2019 USA Hells Angels rally? Here was my response. I come to the office every day expecting issues or catastrophic events. I lay my head down on a pillow every night knowing my phone could ring due to an issue or a catastrophic event. And I can assure you 7 Saturdays out of the year, I'm definitely planning on issues or catastrophic events. So what we do is we plan and we prepare for the worst possible action that could take place. And then we pray every day and we pray every night for the best outcome that we could have. And that's it in a nutshell. They're coming here to gather. The town that they were in 2 years ago is a town of 1,500 residents and 7 police officers. I think we can handle this. You know, the question is not that I get asked all of the time, why Clemson? The question is, why not? Why not Clemson? Why are we any better than anybody else? I'm emotional about it because I think certain people tried to paint a raw deal on it. I think certain people tried to promote it as totally a doom and gloom scenario. They're going to be different looking than us. They're going to ride loud motorcycles. They're not going to ride all over the place. But they're as welcome in this city as anybody else is welcome as far as I'm concerned. I'll entertain any questions any council member might have.
Appreciate your doing your homework.
So, first, thank you for coming. I think this is really helpful. So I did a little homework. I went on the web pages of cities and newspaper cities where these Hells Angels have been before. And other than one place that said they may have had a slight uptake in noise tickets, no one else had any problem whatsoever.
That's correct.
They all made it clear that, but they all made it clear that you did too. They took cautionary measures ahead of time and made sure. But one of the web pages or the newspapers, the local pages, other than that, one did have some noise ticketing. None of them had any issues whatsoever. So thank you for coming to clarify all that.
I appreciate all the work on it as well.
And we're not done. We're not done by far. But I wanted City Council to know we're on top of it.
Chief, thank you for coming into that.
Any other questions?
If you have more questions, feel free to
Thank you, Chief.
jot them down and we can answer them in a future day.
Any other staff reports?
No, sir.
Any other council reports?
I'll make mine quick. Rick was so kind to already mention the meetings, but I'll mention the other 3 more. You're staying very busy. Just keep that in mind. We got Little John Community Center, May 23rd, Meadows Park, May 28th, and Clemson Downtown. Thank you for stepping on and adding a 6th meeting. Greatly appreciate that. And that's on June 11th from 2:30 to 4. Do notice one thing on these. There's changes in the times from 6 to 6:30. We're trying to accommodate the residents. So make sure, for example, tomorrow night is 6 o'clock. And the other thing I just want to make sure everybody's aware of, we do have 2 facilitators for tomorrow night. We're very encouraged by that. They're coming in. They have been, I wouldn't say guided, but they have been given a lot of demographics, information, surveys to try to provide as much information, stimulate conversation. And they want us to come in and listen. We're encouraged to listen, not really, maybe if there are certain questions, they'll direct it to us. But they are facilitating these meetings. They will keep it to an hour and a half. So we're excited about it. I want to thank the city publicly for putting the word out. I want to thank everybody in the city council for putting the word out. So I'm encouraged by hopefully the great turnout we have tomorrow night and 5 other meetings. So.
And I can tell you that you may have some people not there tomorrow, but maybe Thursday. Jimmy missed his opportunity to promote the Please as their annual charity golf tournament tomorrow. It starts at 12:30. They've got a full slate of 34 or 36 teams. I don't remember how many. They filled it up. They raise money. They do Shop with the Cop. They do Angel Free Support at City Hall. They do other things throughout the year with that fundraising golf tournament. And I know there'll be a lot of folks there. I'm not joining them tomorrow. I'll probably hurt myself playing golf, but I'll give them my donation. And so there may be some folks that aren't there that will show up in other meetings.
And I'll just add one last thing. All locations have been awesome, very receptive. They do greatly. We all greatly appreciate that. So, and then Clemson Downs, I'll pass this around. They created their own flyer. So I'll pass it around what they created. So all of them have been very encouraging in getting the word out. So we all greatly appreciate it. So, thank you for allowing us to lead the effort, Mayor.
Thank you, Robert. Any other council reports? Being none, we'll move into the policy action agenda. Item 8, consider the second reading of 2018-R-18 proposed text amendment, which has to do with preschool and student fellowships.
There have been no comments or changes since the first reading.
I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve second reading of 2018-R-18 proposed text amendment, preschools and student fellowships.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank you very much. Item D is consider bid received for street services, maintenance, and award of base bid to Efficiencies $408,879. Consider authorizing additional research work. The amount not to exceed $154,000, given total budget of $563,000 for fiscal year 2018. Chris?
Thank you. This is some exciting stuff. Last week, engineering and public works staff received bids for the resurfacing, the first phase of our resurfacing project in our calendar year. This is completely funded, a new revenue source. We had funding previously allocated, the county was handling, and now that's being dispersed down to the city level for us to control our paving. As you know, we've not had much progress on overlays in our streets in some time, so we're very excited to get this process started. Upon opening those bids, we had a low bidder of about almost $409,000, which was a good bit below what we expected. Good news. So we're asking, one, to award the bid, and then two, since we have far more many streets than we have money, to additionally award the contract up to the full bid amount so that we can basically keep working down the paving list.
The additional work be done at the same rate, per square foot?
It's going to be close. We're working with the contractor. He wanted some due diligence time to go make sure he looked at the roads and estimated how much work it was going to be for him. Some of these roads are fairly easy and wide open. Some of them in these residential areas are kind of constricted and tight, and coordinating getting trucks in while keeping traffic moving can be kind of difficult, so he's into doing that. We don't anticipate a huge amount of variance in that.
The other thing you've got to look at, if you go to the third page, it was on your screen, it's the column is called full depth cost. That's the cost where he has to go through and mark it, and they have to pull out, clear down at the base before they overlay it. And you can see each one of these streets is different, and it's based on volume, types of vehicles it carries, turning radiuses at corners, all those kind of things. And obviously you can see the next three on the list have fairly extensive costs related to full depth patching on those. So bottom line is we want to get as much paving and overlay and full depth patching as we can get with money.
I guess my only concern is, are we getting that so much less than the other two? Are we getting the same quality work?
That's Philip Pickett's Construction. We've worked with extensively in the past. City Engineer Ken Guthrie and Public Works Director David Connor are very pleased with his work in the past. He's done a lot of work for us previously. We feel good about the quality of his work. His niche market right now is municipal streets and neighborhoods, and so this just lines up the kind of work he's doing. He's not venturing into DOT level work very often, so this is just his thing, and he picks up a large amount of these jobs. So, and I want to reiterate something that Rick said. The big variable for us is the depth, the full depth patching, the repair work. We have a rough idea, but as an engineer, trying to be conservative as possible, we're just concerned, as always, that we're going to find situations that we did not anticipate during construction. So, coming into under budget was very good for us. We hope that we're at where we're estimating, and we can pave 3-4 more streets down the list. As you can see, if you look at the very bottom right-hand corner, we still have more streets even on next year's budget beyond what we would have come phase 2 in the next fiscal year. So, and I can assure you I have a stack of papers on my desk of assessments from roads that we're going to have roads to pay for a very long time.
Do you have anything on the state roads and any of their funding that are coming in?
I do not. I'm not an expert on stuff. You missed an expert earlier on that. I know they're obviously picking up on, as you know, the 1 cent sales tax increase this year. I do know that they're going to do the final step of the gas sales tax increase. They're picking up work like crazy too. So
I know there's some of what like a transition plan for the city to maybe receive some of those with funding also.
I would like that, but I can't. I'm not an expert in that area. I would probably have to refer that to Rick maybe.
They did a program like that last year, and they didn't allocate a lot of money, and they had enough takers that some cities accepted the middle of those roads. Now, once you have them there, yours forever too. Like
it keeps giving, but we have a lot of them in our neighborhoods, particularly in some of the older ones that are in really bad shape. So I would just like to see if maybe kind of put a plan.
There's some that I wouldn't touch, things like Esquina or Cambridge. Some of those that
They don't do something, they're going to have to rebuild that whole.
I think they're already there.
Yeah.
There's some with the proper funding. I mean, I'd hate to take them over, but at the same time, you got neighborhoods that you ride in.
And I'll answer this too, because this is going to come up. If you see on the bottom of that list, there are certain streets that are pulled off. We do these by priority, obviously. Some of these streets are being pulled out because the water's been replaced, but the sewer hasn't. So the utility side of the capital improvements have got to catch up to it, because the last thing we want to do is go pave this when it gets paved once every 20 years and then come rip it up in 5 years when we go to replace the utility. So a plug for capital improvement plan as well. But those get pulled out, unfortunately. That's just a reality of the situation. So just wanted to mention that.
Any other questions for Chris?
So Chris, just for my benefit of
Yes.
so how do you rank? You said you have a stack. So I see down at the bottom, this is Kelly Road, and then I do see the ones that are omitted because of the utilities. I understand that.
Yeah.
But how do we rank this beyond that?
So public works staff annually visit every street and assess it on 5 or 6 criteria. Most of them being, are we getting alligator cracking? Are there a number of utility cuts on it? Of course, I can't think of them at all, but they basically go down and do a 5 or 6 point assessment and say, where's this road at conditionally? We just do an average of those areas and try and rank them. There are more complex ways, more in-depth, more detail-oriented, but that requires more staff time to assess. So this seems to be working very well. This is the first phase for us. This is the first time we're really going to do this. I have no doubt that we're going to learn some lessons in this first phase, but
We used to do that several years ago before the county moved to take it away. So they've got a pretty good way to grade the streets. So we graded every street every year.
Well, I know when we went to the county presentation, they had the actual survey where they graded each street.
David actually quit handing that out to city council every year because it was an exercise in frustration, saying your streets are getting worse than they were last year. You still don't have the money, and the county took more money away. So we just quit.
Yeah, and they use a consultant, and those comes with fees and those other things. They're able to do some of this more in-depth analysis, but that, as always, that's taken away from some of the paving money, unfortunately. So
This is going to be a good start, though. Again, if you see a county council member, please remember to tell them thank you for going back to the old allocation method, because it really helps a lot.
yeah, absolutely. We're very excited about being able to see some of these roads finally paved.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we accept the bid for street resurface and maintenance, and award a base bid to Pickens Construction for $408,879. And do we also authorize additional resurfacing work in an amount not to exceed $154,000 as presented.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank you very much. I'll now entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss negotiations and the proposed contract